Welcome to Wife Cheating Story. I hope you have an enjoyable and relaxing time listening. Let's get started.
I took brutal revenge on wife and her lover, win everything in court. The truth's more unbelievable. After discovering my wife's love letter to her business partner, I destroyed their lives, beating him bloody, exposing their affair in court, and taking 80% of our assets. But when I learned she was dying of cancer and had staged everything to spare me the pain of watching her fade, the real horror emerged. Her best friend of 15 years had been poisoning her all along, obsessed with stealing my family. What started as a story of betrayal became a nightmare of twisted love, where the victim was the villain, the friend was the killer, and 20 years of marriage hung on a truth more devastating than any lie. Before we begin, let me know where you're tuning in from down in the comments, and if you enjoy this story, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss our next tale. The Pacific Ocean stretched endlessly beyond the floor-to-ceiling windows, its waves catching the last golden rays of the setting sun. Kyle stood on the mahogany deck he'd built with his own hands, breathing in the salt air that had become as familiar as his wife's perfume. 20 years. 2 decades of mornings that began with Lillian's sleepy smile and ended with her gentle breathing against his shoulder. "You're going to burn the stakes," she called from inside, her voice carrying that musical quality that still made his chest tighten. He turned, watching her move through their kitchen with practiced grace. At 42, Lillian had only grown more beautiful, her auburn hair now touched with threads of silver she refused to dye. "Let them worry about their gray," she'd say, running her fingers through his own salt and pepper beard. "We've earned every single one." The steaks sizzled as he flipped them, the aroma mixing with the jasmine from her garden. Their daughter's old swing set creaked in the breeze, a ghost of childhood's past. Their son Jacob was at Stanford now, their daughter Sarah finishing her senior year of high school. The empty nest loomed, but Kyle found himself looking forward to having Lillian to himself again. "Lucas called," she said, stepping onto the deck with 2 glasses of wine. "The gallery's numbers are up 30% this quarter." Kyle accepted the glass, noting how she didn't quite meet his eyes. "That's great, babe. Your hard work paying off." "It's not just me. Lucas has been—" She paused, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "He's been incredible. I couldn't have expanded to LA without him." Something flickered across her face, an expression Kyle couldn't quite read, but then she was smiling again, clinking her glass against his. "To another 20 years? "To forever," he corrected, pulling her close. Later that night, Kyle went searching for the anniversary gift he'd hidden months ago. Lillian was in the shower, humming off-key as she always did. He smiled, kneeling beside her antique armoire. His hand brushed something unexpected, a small, wrapped box pushed far beneath the furniture. Curious, he pulled it out. The tag made his blood run cold. "For Lucas, celebrating the day we found each other. Forever yours, Elle." The shower stopped. Kyle's hands trembled as he opened the box. Inside lay a vintage Rolex, the kind Lucas had mentioned admiring at a charity auction last year. But it was the letter beneath that shattered his world. "My darling Lucas," it began in Lillian's distinctive handwriting. "Every moment away from you is agony. When I'm in Kyle's arms, I close my eyes and pretend." He couldn't read more. The box tumbled from his numb fingers as Lillian emerged from the bathroom, toweling her hair. "Honey, have you seen my—" She froze, seeing the gift scattered on the floor, the letter in his shaking hands. "Kyle, I can explain." "Don't." The word came out strangled. 20 years. 20 years of trust, of building a life together, of believing in forever. She reached for him, but he stepped back, his world tilting on its axis. The woman before him, this stranger wearing his wife's face, opened her mouth, then closed it again. "Your business trips to LA, he said quietly. "They weren't about the gallery. Kyle, please. Just answer me. Are you sleeping with him?" The silence stretched between them like an ocean. When she finally whispered, yes, it was almost a relief. At least she hadn't added lying to her betrayal. 3 days. That's how long Kyle lasted before the fury overcame the numbness. He'd spent those days in a hotel, staring at the ceiling, replaying every gallery opening and supplier meeting. His phone buzzed constantly, Lillian's calls, texts begging him to come home, to let her explain. He deleted them all unread. Madison, his sister, found him on day 4. The lawyer in her took one look at his unwashed state and ordered room service. "You look like hell," she said, pushing coffee into his hands. "Feel worse. Have you talked to her? What's there to say? She's been fucking her business partner. End of story." Madison's lips tightened. "I never liked him. Too smooth. Too available. I trusted her." The words tasted like ash. 20 years, Maddie. How long has this been going on? How many times did she come home to me after— Stop! Madison gripped his shoulders. "You'll drive yourself crazy thinking like that. What do you want to do?" "I want to hurt him." The admission came out raw. "I want to destroy everything he's built. Everything they built. Kyle. She used our money to fund his gallery expansion. Our savings, Maddie. I checked the accounts. $100,000. Investment opportunity, she called it." Madison's expression hardened. "That's marital asset fraud. I don't want legal remedies." Kyle stood, pacing like a caged animal. "I want him to feel what I'm feeling." The drive to Los Angeles took 2 hours. 2 hours of building rage, of imagining Lucas's smug face, of remembering every time the man had sat at Kyle's dinner table, eating Kyle's food, complimenting Kyle's wife. The gallery district was bustling with the lunch crowd. Kyle spotted Lillian's silver Lexus in the parking structure. His hands tightened on the steering wheel as he watched the exit. They emerged together 40 minutes later. Lucas had his hand on the small of her back, guiding her toward his Mercedes. The casual intimacy of it, the easy familiarity, sent Kyle's vision red. He was out of his truck before conscious thought took over. Lucas saw him first, his eyes widening. Kyle. The first punch connected with a satisfying crunch. Lucas's nose exploded in a spray of blood as he staggered backward. "Kyle, stop!" Lillian screamed, but he was already swinging again. Lucas tried to defend himself, but 20 years of construction work had given Kyle advantages a gallery owner couldn't match. He drove Lucas to the ground, fists connecting with ribs, jaw, anywhere he could reach. "You sat at my table!" Each word punctuated with a blow. "You smiled at my children!" Security guards pulled him off, pinning his arms as Lucas groaned on the asphalt. Lillian knelt beside her lover, cradling his bloody face. "You're insane!" she shrieked at Kyle. "You could have killed him!" "Good!" Kyle spat, struggling against the guards. The police arrived within minutes. As they cuffed him, Kyle saw Lillian helping Lucas to his feet. The tenderness in her touch, the concern in her eyes hurt worse than any physical blow could have. At the station, Kyle sat in the holding cell, knuckles throbbing. An officer appeared with paperwork. "Your wife's here," he said. "She's filing a report." Kyle laughed bitterly. Of course she is. But when Lillian appeared in the interview room, her appearance shocked him. A purple bruise bloomed across her left cheekbone, her lips split and swollen. "Jesus, Lil, what happened?" She flinched away from him. "You happened. You've been happening for years." "What are you talking about? I never—" "Tell them," she said to the officer, tears streaming. "Tell them about the other times, the pushing, the grabbing, how you broke my grandmother's vase when you threw it at me." "That's a lie!" Kyle surged to his feet, chains rattling. "I never touched you." The officer pushed him back down. Lillian sobbed harder, the perfect picture of an abused wife. "I was leaving you," she whispered. "Lucas was helping me get away safely, and now look what you've done." Kyle stared at the stranger wearing his wife's face, understanding dawning cold and terrible. She'd played him, played everyone. "You're good," he said quietly. "Really good." She met his eyes then, and for just a moment the mask slipped. The calculating coldness he saw there chilled him to the bone. Then she was sobbing again, letting the officer lead her away, leaving Kyle to contemplate the war she'd just declared. Madison's heels clicked against the jail's linoleum like a war drum. She slapped a folder onto the table between them, her face carved from stone. "She's claiming domestic abuse going back 5 years, she said without preamble. "Has medical records from 3 different emergency rooms, witnesses who'll testify to seeing bruises. All lies. Kyle's voice came out hoarse from a sleepless night. I know. But she's been planning this, Kyle. The bruises were real, I'm guessing self-inflicted or with help. She's built a paper trail. Lucas? His nose is broken. 2 cracked ribs. He's pressing full charges. With Lillian's abuse claims, the DA's talking felony assault with domestic violence enhancements. Kyle laughed, the sound bitter as coffee grounds. 20 years of marriage and I never knew I was sleeping next to a sociopath. We'll fight this, Madison promised. But right now, we need to get you out on bail. The bail hearing was a blur. Lillian sat in the gallery, dabbing at her eyes with a tissue. The bruise on her face had darkened to purple-black, strategically visible to the judge. Lucas beside her, nose bandaged. The perfect victim. But Kyle had an ace, Liam Morrison, 6 feet of grizzled ex-detective who'd helped Kyle through a construction site theft years back. He sat behind Madison, taking notes with laser focus. Bail set at $50,000, the judge declared. And Mr. Garrison, stay away from your wife and Mr. Winters. Outside the courthouse, Liam pulled Kyle aside. That bruise pattern on her face? Too perfect, too symmetrical. I've seen enough domestic violence victims to know the difference. Can you prove it? Give me time. Liam's smile was sharp. Your wife's not the only one who can play dirty. They convened at Madison's office that evening. The space smelled of leather and ambition, walls lined with law books and victory photos. First things first, Madison said, spreading documents across her conference table. The 100,000 she moved? I've tracked it. 3 transfers over 6 months, all to accounts connected to Lucas's gallery expansion. Marital asset fraud, Kyle said. Exactly. But here's where it gets interesting. She pulled out another document. Lucas's gallery? It's hemorrhaging money. The expansion was funded entirely by your wife's investments and some very shady loans. Liam leaned forward. Shady how? The kind of loans that come with broken kneecaps if you default. Our boy Lucas is in deep with some very unpleasant people. Kyle felt the first stirring of hope. So we expose him. Show the court Lillian's been funding her lover's failing business with marital assets. It's a start, Madison agreed. But we need more. We need to destroy her abuse narrative. I might have something, Liam said. He produced a thin smile. Your wife's friend, Mackenzie? The nurse? She called me. Says Lillian's been acting strange, secretive. She's worried about her. Mackenzie's been Lillian's best friend for 15 years, Kyle said slowly. If anyone would know the truth. I'll talk to her, Liam promised. Meanwhile, you need to start documenting everything. Every memory of her lies, every receipt, every photo that proves you never laid a hand on her. What about Lucas? Kyle asked. Madison and Liam exchanged glances. Lucas is dirty, Liam said finally. Not just the loans. I've got contacts saying he's been skimming from artist commissions, cooking books. Give me 2 weeks and I'll have enough to bury him. I don't want him buried, Kyle said quietly. I want him destroyed. I want him to lose everything, the way I'm losing everything. Careful, Madison warned. Revenge is justice, Kyle finished. When the system fails, revenge is justice. That night, alone in his hotel room, Kyle opened his laptop. 20 years of photos stared back at him. Family vacations, birthday parties, quiet moments of joy. In every image, Lillian smiled beside him, the perfect wife. He wondered how long she'd been planning this. How many of those smiles were lies? His phone buzzed. Mackenzie. Kyle, I need to see you. It's about Lillian. Something's very wrong. The courtroom smelled of old wood and broken promises. Kyle sat beside Madison, watching Lillian perform for the judge. She'd dressed carefully conservative navy suit, minimal makeup except to highlight the fading bruise. The grieving, abused wife seeking freedom. Your Honor, her lawyer began. My client has suffered years of escalating violence. She lives in fear of her husband who, as we've seen, is capable of brutal assault. Kyle's jaw clenched. Madison's hand on his arm was the only thing keeping him seated. Their turn came like a boxer's counterpunch. Madison rose, every inch the legal predator. Your Honor, we have evidence of systematic financial fraud. Mrs. Garrison transferred $100,000 of marital assets to fund her lover's business ventures. She laid out the paper trail with surgical precision. Bank statements, wire transfers, emails between Lillian and Lucas discussing their future gallery empire. Lillian's mask slipped for just a moment, eyes flashing with rage before the tears returned. I was trying to secure my future, she sobbed. I knew I had to leave eventually. I needed somewhere safe to go. But Madison wasn't done. We also have sworn affidavits from 3 neighbors stating they never witnessed any violence or signs of abuse. Security footage from their home showing Mrs. Garrison coming and going freely, without injuries, on dates she claimed to have been assaulted. The judge's expression shifted, doubt creeping in. Then Lillian's lawyer played their trump card. Your Honor, we'd like to call Lucas Winters. Lucas took the stand, still sporting visible bruises from Kyle's assault. He painted a picture of a terrified woman, seeking solace in his arms. She would come to the gallery crying, he said, voice carefully modulated, showing me bruises, begging me not to say anything because she was afraid of what Kyle might do. And did you document these injuries? Madison asked on cross-examination. No, she begged me not to. How convenient. And this relationship between you purely platonic? Lucas hesitated. We fell in love. I'm not proud of it, but when you see someone suffering so much that she invested $100,000 in your failing gallery. Objection, Lillian's lawyer shouted. But the damage was done. Doubt had been planted. The judge called a recess. In the hallway, Mackenzie appeared, pulling Kyle aside. I can't testify, she said, tears in her eyes. Lillian, she has things on me. Things that could cost me my nursing license. What things? Mackenzie shook her head. Just know I'm sorry. She's not who any of us thought she was. When court resumed, the judge delivered his verdict with the weight of Solomon. While I have concerns about both parties' conduct, the evidence supports granting the divorce. However, given the financial malfeasance and questions about the abuse claims, assets will be divided 8,020 in favor of Mr. Garrison. Custody of the minor child will also go to Mr. Garrison. Kyle felt no victory. Across the aisle, Lillian sat frozen, staring at nothing. As people filed out, she approached him. Lucas tried to follow, but she waved him off. You won, she said quietly. Did I? 20 years of my life turned out to be a lie. She studied him with those green eyes he'd fallen in love with so long ago. You think you know the truth now? You don't know anything. Then tell me. Make me understand why you did this. For a moment, her composure cracked. Something raw and desperate flashed across her face. You'll regret this, she whispered. When you finally understand, you'll regret not trusting me. Trust? Kyle laughed bitterly. You destroyed that. No, she said, backing away. You destroyed it. You destroyed everything. She left him standing there, her words echoing in the empty courtroom. Madison found him minutes later, still rooted to the spot. Kyle, we won. It's over. But watching Lillian's retreating form, Kyle felt a chill that had nothing to do with the air conditioning. Her final words rang with a truth he couldn't grasp, a warning he couldn't decode. It wasn't over. It was just beginning. The warehouse district of Los Angeles breathed rust and forgotten dreams. Liam's boots crunched on broken glass as he approached the nondescript building that housed what remained of Lucas Winters' first gallery attempt. You sure about this? Kyle asked, following close behind. Trust me. Liam's flashlight cut through the darkness. My contact at the county clerk's office dug deep. Lucas Winters isn't who you think he is. Inside, dust motes danced in the beam of light. Abandoned canvases leaned against walls, their subjects obscured by years of neglect. Liam moved with purpose to a filing cabinet in the corner. Lucas's wife died 2 years ago, he said, pulling out a folder. Brain cancer, spent their entire savings on experimental treatments. Kyle's chest tightened. So look at this. Liam spread photographs across a dusty desk. A younger Lucas, gaunt with grief, standing beside a hospital bed. The woman in the bed smiled despite the tubes and wires, her head wrapped in bandages. He sold everything, Liam continued. House, car, his first gallery. When that wasn't enough, he sold his kidney to his brother for the money. That doesn't excuse. There's more. Liam produced another set of documents. After she died, Lucas started a foundation. Free art therapy for cancer patients. He's donated every penny of profit for 2 years. Kyle stared at the papers, his carefully constructed image of Lucas as a predator beginning to crack. What about him and Lillian? Liam clicked on his laptop, pulling up security footage. I had a friend hack into the gallery system. 3 months of footage, Kyle. Watch. The grainy video showed Lillian and Lucas in the gallery office. She leaned in for a kiss. Lucas stepped back, hands up in clear rejection. Another clip, Lillian's hand on his thigh during a meeting, Lucas standing abruptly, moving away. Every single advance, Liam said quietly. He rejected. Everyone. Kyle sank into a chair, the weight of his mistake crushing him. But the hotel receipts. Look closer. Liam highlighted the credit card statements. 2 rooms. Always 2 separate rooms. And the dates? They correspond with major art fairs, legitimate business trips. The letter. She wrote him a love letter. Did she? Or did you see what you expected to see in your rage? Kyle's mind raced back to that night. The letter crumpled in his shaking hands, words blurring through tears. Had he really read it? Or had he seen Lucas and love and filled in the rest? His phone buzzed. Madison. We have a problem, his sister said without preamble. Lucas is dropping all charges. What? He just left my office. Said he understands you were protecting your marriage. That grief makes people do terrible things. Kyle, he was crying. The phone slipped from Kyle's numb fingers. Through the warehouse window, Los Angeles sprawled beneath a blanket of smog, and somewhere in that maze of streets, he'd destroyed an innocent man. There's one more thing, Liam said gently. That gift box you found? I tracked down the purchase. He handed Kyle a receipt. Lillian bought that watch for Lucas, yes. But look at the engraving order. Kyle read the inscription through blurring eyes. To Lucas. Thank you for saving my husband's life. May you find love again. L. Saving my life? The Harkins construction site collapsed last year. You were trapped in that elevator shaft for 6 hours. Lucas was visiting the neighboring gallery, heard the collapse. He was the one who found the gap in the debris, guided rescue workers to you. Kyle's world tilted. Every certainty, every justified rage crumbled like sand. I need to find her, he whispered. She's gone, Liam said. Resigned from the gallery 2 days ago. Her apartment's empty. Kyle stood on shaking legs. Outside, the city hummed with indifferent life. He'd won everything: the house, the money, the children's custody, and lost the only thing that mattered. His phone rang again. Mackenzie. Kyle? Thank God. Lillian's sick, really sick. She made me promise not to tell you, but I can't watch her die alone. Die? The word came out strangled. Stage 4 breast cancer. She's known for months. That's why she— Oh, God, Kyle, what have you done? The oncology ward at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center smelled of disinfectant and despair. Kyle's footsteps echoed in the sterile hallway as Mackenzie led him deeper into the maze of suffering. She found out 6 months ago, Mackenzie whispered, right after your anniversary trip to Hawaii. Kyle remembered that trip. Lillian laughing in the waves, more beautiful than ever. They'd made love on the beach under stars, promised each other another 20 years. Why didn't she tell me? Mackenzie's eyes filled with tears. You know how you are about illness. Your mother's death wrecked you. Lillian couldn't bear to put you through that again. They stopped outside room 4B. Through the small window, Kyle saw her. The vibrant woman who'd shared his bed for 20 years lay skeletal against white sheets. Tubes ran from her arms, machines beeped steadily, and her beautiful auburn hair was gone. The treatment's not working, Mackenzie said. She's been refusing aggressive chemo. Said she wanted to spare you the slow decline. So she made me hate her instead. She thought if you hated her, it would hurt less when she died, that you'd move on easier. Kyle's hand trembled on the door handle. The affair. There was no affair. She paid Lucas to play along, to be seen with her. She knew you'd follow eventually. The bruises? She had me help her create them. Medical knowledge has its dark uses. You helped her lie to me? Mackenzie's voice hardened. She was dying, Kyle. Dying alone because she loved you too much to make you watch. So yes, I helped her. I helped her push away the one person she wanted most because that's what she thought was best for you. Kyle pushed open the door. Lillian's eyes fluttered open, focusing slowly. "You're not supposed to be here," she whispered. "You're not supposed to be dying." He crossed to her bed, taking her skeletal hand. The wedding ring hung loose on her finger. "I found out about Lucas," he said. "About everything." "Then you know I'm a terrible actress." A ghost of her old smile flickered. He kept forgetting his lines. I had to practically assault him in that parking lot to make it believable. "Why, Lil? Why not just tell me?" Tears slipped down her hollow cheeks. "Remember when your mother died? You didn't eat for weeks, didn't sleep. You tried to." She squeezed his hand weakly. "I couldn't be the reason you went back to that dark place." "So you decided to traumatize me differently?" "I wanted you angry. Anger keeps people moving. Grief drowns them." Kyle lifted her hand to his lips. "You stupid, brilliant woman. Did you really think I'd grieve less for a wife who betrayed me? I've been drowning anyway, just in rage instead of sorrow." "The children? Think their mother abandoned them. Sarah won't even say your name." Lillian's face crumpled. "I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. You thought wrong." Kyle climbed onto the narrow bed, gathering her fragile form against him. 20 years, and you still don't know me at all." They lay in silence, listening to the machines that measured out her remaining time. Finally, Lillian spoke. "The trial run at Mayo. Already called. We have an appointment Thursday. Kyle, the odds—" "I don't care about odds. I care about time. Whatever we have left, we face it together. No more lies, no more protection. Just truth." "The truth?" Lillian laughed bitterly. "The truth is, I'm dying, and I destroyed our marriage for nothing." "No, you gave me a gift." She looked at him in confusion. "You showed me how much I love you," Kyle said. "Even when I thought you'd betrayed everything we built, I couldn't stop loving you. That's the truth. The only truth that matters." Mackenzie knocked softly. "Visiting hours?" "I'm not leaving," Kyle said firmly. "Get me whatever forms I need to sign. I'm not leaving her again." As darkness fell over Los Angeles, Kyle held his wife and wondered how many sunsets they had left. In the morning, he'd call the children, begin the painful work of rebuilding trust. He'd apologize to Lucas, though no words could undo the violence he'd inflicted. But tonight, he simply held Lillian and listened to her breathe, each inhale a victory, each exhale a prayer. The heart monitor beeped steadily, marking time they'd almost lost to good intentions and terrible choices. And in that rhythmic sound, Kyle heard something like hope. Seattle rain hammered against the windows of the Greyhound bus station. Kyle stood in the entrance, water dripping from his jacket, scanning the crowd. 3 weeks had passed since Lillian vanished from the hospital, leaving only a note. "Let me go." "Any luck?" Liam's voice crackled through the phone. "Nothing yet, but Mackenzie said she'd been researching alternative treatments here." "Kyle, maybe she doesn't get to decide this alone. Not anymore." Kyle had been to 6 clinics, 4 hospitals, and countless alternative medicine centers. Each dead end felt like losing her again. But Madison had found the credit card charge a small bakery in Pike Place Market. The market teemed with tourists, despite the rain. Kyle pushed through the crowd, following the scent of fresh bread to a tiny shop tucked between a fish vendor and a flower stall. Through the steamy window, he saw her. Lillian stood behind the counter, aproned and flour-dusted, sliding a tray of croissants into the display case. She'd lost more weight, her movements careful and deliberate. A knit cap covered her bare head. Kyle entered, the bell above the door chiming. Lillian looked up, and their eyes met across the small space. The tray slipped from her hands, pastries scattering across the floor. "No," she breathed. "You can't be here." "Lil." "Marie!" A heavy-set woman emerged from the back. "What's—" She saw Kyle, took in Lillian's stricken face. "Take your break, honey. I'll clean this up." Lillian fled to the back room. Kyle followed, finding her slumped against a wall in a narrow storage area that smelled of yeast and vanilla. "How did you find me?" "You used our credit card, the one you kept for emergencies." "This is an emergency. I'm out of money." She laughed bitterly. "Turns out dying is expensive. Come home." "To what? Children who hate me? A husband I traumatized? I made my choices, Kyle. Let me live with them." "Live?" Kyle gestured at her frail form. "You're dying. On my own terms. Bullshit. You're dying alone and afraid because you're too proud to admit you were wrong." Lillian's eyes flashed. "Pride? You think this is about pride? Look at me." She yanked off the knit cap, revealing her bare scalp, the sharp angles of her skull. "I'm not the woman you married. I'm a ghost. A burden. Everything I tried to spare you from." "You're right," Kyle said quietly. "You're not the woman I married." Lillian flinched. "The woman I married trusted me, believed in us. This person who lies and runs and makes unilateral decisions about our life? I don't know her." "Then why are you here?" "Because I want my wife back, the real one. The one who held my hand through my mother's death, who believed we could weather anything together. That woman is still in there behind all this fear and stupidity." Lillian started to speak, then swayed. Kyle caught her as her knees buckled, her body alarmingly light in his arms. "When did you last eat?" "Yesterday, maybe." Her eyes struggled to focus. "The smell of food makes me sick." "That's it. We're going to the hospital." "No." She gripped his shirt weakly. "Please, just let me go. Let me disappear. It's better, stop." Kyle lifted her easily, horrified by how little she weighed. "Stop deciding what's better for me, for us. You don't get to play God with our lives. I was trying to save you." "From what? From loving my wife through illness? From showing our children what commitment means? From proving that 20 years meant something?" Lillian sobbed against his chest as he carried her through the bakery. The owner pressed a card into his hand. "She's a good girl, stubborn, but good. Take care of her." Outside, the rain had gentled to mist. Kyle bundled Lillian into his rental car, cranking up the heat. She shivered violently, her skin translucent in the gray light. "I'm scared," she whispered. "I know. Not of dying, of hoping, of trying treatment again and failing, of watching you watch me fade." Kyle pulled into traffic, heading for the hospital. "Remember when Jacob was born? 36 hours of labor. You were terrified then, too. That was different." "No, it wasn't. You were in pain, afraid, out of control, but we got through it together, just like we'll get through this. And if we don't, then we'll have tried. Together. That's all I'm asking, Lil. Stop protecting me and let me love you, whatever happens." At Swedish Medical Center, Kyle carried her into the emergency room. As nurses descended with wheelchairs and forms, Lillian caught his hand. "I'm sorry," she said, "for all of it. Lucas, the lies running. I thought I was being strong." "Strength isn't pushing people away," Kyle said. "It's letting them stay when everything falls apart." They wheeled her away for tests, leaving Kyle in the sterile waiting room. He called Madison, then the children. Sarah cried. Jacob went silent, but both agreed to come. Hours later, a doctor appeared. "Mr. Garrison, your wife is severely malnourished and dehydrated. We're starting IV fluids and nutrition. About her cancer." "We're starting treatment again," Kyle interrupted. "Whatever it takes." "Actually." The doctor smiled slightly. "That's what I wanted to discuss. Have you heard of CART therapy? There's a trial here that your wife might qualify for. It's experimental, but the results have been promising." Hope, dangerous and beautiful, bloomed in Kyle's chest. "Whatever it takes," he repeated. Through the window of Lillian's room, he watched her sleep. She looked peaceful for the first time in months, not the false peace of resignation, but real rest. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. Kyle opened it, expecting spam. "Mr. Garrison, I heard about your wife. Despite everything, I want to help. There's a specialist in Switzerland who owes me a favor. Lucas Winters." Kyle stared at the message, throat tight. The man he'd beaten, whose life he'd tried to destroy, offering help. Grace, where he'd shown none. He typed back, "I'm sorry, for everything. Love makes us all a little crazy. Take care of her. She's worth fighting for." Kyle deleted the conversation, then thought better of it. Some bridges once burned could be rebuilt. Others served as reminders of how quickly good people could do terrible things. Lillian stirred, eyes finding his through the glass. He entered, taking her hand. "Still here?" she murmured. "Always," he said. "No more running. From either of us." She squeezed his fingers weakly. "It might not work. The treatment." "Then we'll have tried. Together." "Together," she echoed, the word like a prayer. Outside, Seattle's famous rain continued, washing the city clean. And in that small hospital room, two people began the hard work of rebuilding trust from the rubble of good intentions gone wrong. The Mayo Clinic trial coordinator's voice droned through treatment protocols while Kyle held Lillian's hand in the austere consultation room. 3 weeks of tests, scans, and careful rehabilitation had brought them here to a last-chance experimental program that might buy them time or steal what little remained. The CART therapy essentially reprograms your immune cells to attack the cancer, Dr. Patel explained. Success rates for late-stage patients are around 30%. Side effects? Lillian asked, her voice steady. Significant. Cytokine storms, neurotoxicity, organ stress. You'll be hospitalized for at least a month. Kyle felt Lillian's fingers tighten. And if we don't try? 3 to 6 months, perhaps less. They signed the papers in silence. Afterward, in the rental car, Lillian finally spoke. "I need to see them. Sarah and Jacob. Before we start." "They're flying in tomorrow." "Do they know? About the cancer?" "Yes, and about the rest. Madison told them everything." Lillian closed her eyes. "They must hate me even more now." "They're confused, hurt, but they don't hate you." That evening, Kyle's phone rang, Liam's number. "You need to sit down," his friend said without preamble. "What now?" "It's about Mackenzie. I kept digging after you left for Seattle. Kyle, she's been lying to you." "To both of you." Kyle's blood chilled. "What kind of lies?" "I pulled her employment records. She was fired from her last hospital for stealing medications, specifically drugs that match Lillian's symptoms: nausea, weakness, weight loss." "That's impossible. She's been Lillian's best friend for 15 years. Yeah, I know. Since right after you got married. Didn't you ever wonder about the timing?" Kyle's mind raced. Mackenzie at their wedding, catching the bouquet. Mackenzie always there, always helpful, always subtly putting herself between them. "She called me," Liam continued. 20 minutes ago. Said she heard Lillian was back in treatment. She's flying to Rochester tonight. Kyle, I don't think Lillian has cancer." The phone slipped from Kyle's numb fingers. Through the hotel window, Rochester spread out in neat Midwestern grids, and somewhere in those orderly streets, another lie was racing toward them. "Kyle?" Lillian stood in the doorway, wrapped in a hotel bathrobe. "What's wrong?" He retrieved the phone, putting Liam on speaker. "Tell her what you just told me." As Liam repeated his suspicions, Lillian sank onto the bed. "No, that's insane. Mackenzie helped me through every treatment. She held my hand during chemo." "What chemo?" Liam asked. "I've checked every oncology center in Southern California. No record of you as a patient. The only medical records are from clinics where Mackenzie worked. The test results could be faked. She's a nurse. She has access." Lillian was shaking now. "But I'm sick. I'm dying. The doctors here confirmed you're sick," Kyle said slowly. "Not that you have cancer. The symptoms could be from poisoning." "For 6 months?" Lillian's voice cracked. "She's my best friend. She loves me." "She loves Kyle," Liam said quietly. "I found her diary from nursing school, page after page about the man she met at a construction site, the man who was marrying someone else. She's been in love with him since the day you introduced them." Kyle watched the truth dawn on his wife's face, the slow, terrible understanding of a betrayal that dwarfed his own false accusations. "The supplements," she whispered. She gave me special supplements. Said they'd help with the side effects. We need to tell the doctors, Kyle said. Get you tested for toxins. Call the police. No. Lillian stood abruptly. She's coming here? Her flight lands at 10. Then we wait. We let her come. Lillian's eyes blazed with something Kyle had rarely seen, pure rage. I want to hear it from her. I want to know why. Lil, that's dangerous. Dangerous? She laughed bitterly. I gave up my marriage, traumatized my children, nearly died alone in Seattle because I trusted her. I deserve the truth. They spent the evening planning. Liam flew in on a red-eye, bringing a recording device and his service weapon. The hotel gave them an adjoining room where he could monitor. At 10:47, Mackenzie knocked. Oh, sweetie. She swept in, all concern and affection. Kyle called. I came as soon as I could. She looked perfect, the devoted friend, rushing to help. Kyle fought the urge to grab her throat. How are you feeling? Mackenzie touched Lillian's forehead. You're warm. Have you been taking the supplements I sent? Every day, Lillian lied smoothly. Good. I brought more. Mackenzie pulled bottles from her bag. These will help with the treatment side effects. You've been so good to me, Lillian said, accepting the bottles. I don't know what I would have done without you. That's what friends are for. Mackenzie shot Kyle a look. Though I still think you should have stayed away. Let nature take its course. You mean let her die? Kyle asked. Sometimes that's kinder than false hope. Mackenzie sat beside Lillian, taking her hands. I've seen what these treatments do. The suffering. And for what? A few extra months? Is that why you've been poisoning her? The words hung in the air. Mackenzie went very still. What? The supplements, Kyle said. We had them tested. Arsenic and ethylene glycol, small doses over time, just enough to mimic cancer symptoms. Mackenzie yanked her hands away. That's ridiculous. I would never— I'm not dying, Lillian said quietly. I never had cancer. You made it all up. You're confused. The treatment— There is no treatment. Lillian stood, trembling with fury. Because there is no cancer! Just my best friend slowly murdering me. Mackenzie's mask finally slipped. You don't understand. You had everything. The perfect husband, the perfect life. And you threw it away. So you decided to take it? I loved him first. The words exploded out. I saw him first, but then you swooped in with your gallery connections and your perfect smile, and suddenly he couldn't see anyone else. That was 20 years ago, Kyle said, horrified. 20 years of watching you two play house. 20 years of being the third wheel, the helpful friend. Do you know what that's like? To love someone who doesn't even see you? So you tried to kill me? Lillian's voice broke. I tried to save him. Mackenzie was crying now, mascara running. You were going to leave him eventually. I could see it. The separate interests, the business trips. I just accelerated things. By making me think I was dying? You were supposed to leave, spare him the pain, just like you planned. But you kept fighting, kept holding on. So yes, I increased the doses. Better a quick death than watching him suffer through a real illness with you. The adjoining door burst open. Liam entered with 2 uniformed officers. Mackenzie Summers, you're under arrest for attempted murder. As they cuffed her, Mackenzie looked at Kyle one last time. I did it for you. Everything was for you. No, Kyle said quietly. You did it for yourself. And you nearly destroyed everything I love. They led her away, still protesting her love. In the sudden silence, Kyle and Lillian stood apart, strangers after so much deception. The supplements, Lillian said finally. How long before they're out of my system? The doctor said a few weeks, maybe a month. And then, when I'm well, what happens to us? Kyle crossed to her, taking her face in his hands. Then we start over. No lies, no protection, no secrets. Just truth. The truth is, I don't know how to trust anymore. Not you, not myself, not anyone. Then we learn together. Lillian leaned into him, and for the first time in months, Kyle felt her truly present, not running, not pretending, just there. Together, she agreed. Through the hotel window, Rochester slept peacefully, unaware of the drama in room 412. But for Kyle and Lillian, the night marked an ending and a beginning, the death of one story and the birth of another, built on harder truths and deeper understanding. The real work would come tomorrow when their children arrived, when lawyers and doctors and therapists would help them navigate the wreckage. But tonight, they held each other and breathed the same air, grateful for the simple gift of time they'd almost lost to love's most twisted impersonation. The evidence filled Madison's conference table like pieces of a horrific puzzle. Police reports, medical records, pharmacy logs, 15 years of Mackenzie's obsession laid bare in black and white. She started small, Detective Morrison explained, spreading out the timeline. Antibiotics that caused nausea, supplements laced with mild toxins, always just enough to keep Lillian dependent on her care. Kyle stared at a photograph from their 10th anniversary party. Mackenzie stood beside them, smile bright, hand resting on his shoulder. Even then, she'd been planning. The fake cancer diagnosis was brilliant, Liam added grudgingly. She had access to the hospital's letterhead, knew which doctors were on vacation, created an entire false medical history. But why escalate to attempted murder? Madison asked. Because I was leaving. They turned. Lillian stood in the doorway, still pale but steadier after a week of treatment. She moved to the table, studying the evidence of her friend's betrayal. I'd mentioned taking a job in New York. Lucas had connections there. She touched a photo of Mackenzie. That night she made me tea, said it would help me sleep. I woke up in the hospital and she was there crying about my diagnosis. The perfect trap, Kyle murmured. You couldn't leave if you were dying. And if I stayed, she could keep poisoning me. Either way, she won. Lillian's laugh was bitter. God, how did I not see it? Because you trusted her, Madison said gently. We all did. Detective Morrison gathered the files. We found more at her apartment. Journals going back years. Photos of Kyle she'd taken without his knowledge. Plans for after Lillian was gone. Plans. Kyle felt sick. She'd researched grief counseling groups, planned to accidentally join the same one, had a whole timeline for becoming indispensable to your family. The children, Lillian gasped. She was going to. She never would have gotten the chance, Morrison assured her. We have enough to put her away for 20 years. Attempted murder, fraud, theft of medical supplies. She'll never hurt anyone again. After the detective left, they sat in silence. The weight of Mackenzie's betrayal pressed down like a physical thing. I need to see it, Lillian said suddenly. Her apartment. I need to understand. Lil, that's not... Please, Kyle, I spent 15 years calling her my sister. I need to know who she really was. The apartment manager let them in with the police's permission. The space looked normal, tasteful furniture, bright colors, photos of friends. But the second bedroom told a different story. The walls were covered with pictures of Kyle. At construction sites, with the children grocery shopping. Hundreds of moments stolen and hoarded, a shrine to obsession. Jesus, Kyle breathed. Lillian moved deeper into the room. A mannequin stood in the corner dressed in a wedding gown, the same style Lillian had worn 20 years ago. She kept newspaper clippings, Lillian said, voice hollow. Our engagement announcement, wedding photos, birth announcements. She lifted a notebook. She wrote about our fights, things I told her in confidence, planning how to use them. Kyle found her prescription pad, fake medical letterhead, vials of various substances. She had everything ready, just waiting for the right moment. I gave her that moment. Lillian sank onto the bed. I complained about feeling distant from you, about wondering if we'd grown apart, and she saw her chance. This isn't your fault. Isn't it? I chose her over you. When you suspected Lucas, I ran to her for comfort. I let her poison me literally and figuratively against my own husband. Kyle knelt before her. She was a master manipulator. She fooled everyone. Not you. You never liked her much. I thought she was clingy. I never imagined. He gestured at the room. This. They left the apartment in silence, the weight of Mackenzie's obsession following them like a shadow. Outside, Los Angeles bustled with indifferent life. The children arrive tomorrow, Lillian said. What do we tell them? The truth, or as much as they can handle. Sarah hasn't spoken to me in 3 months. Jacob chose Stanford partly to get away from the drama. How do I fix that? The same way we fix us, Kyle said. One conversation at a time. That evening, they met with the prosecutor. Mackenzie had confessed to everything, apparently relieved to finally tell her story. She'd painted herself as a victim of unrequited love, driven to extremes by passion. "She seems to think it's romantic," the prosecutor said, disgusted. "Like some twisted love story where she's the heroine." "Will she plead guilty?" Madison asked. "Her lawyer's pushing for insanity. Says 15 years of obsession proves mental illness." "She's not insane," Lillian said firmly. "She knew exactly what she was doing. Every dose calculated, every lie planned. That's not madness. That's evil." Later, in their hotel room, Kyle watched Lillian sleep. The poison was leaving her system, color returning to her cheeks, but the deeper wounds would take longer to heal. His phone buzzed. Sarah. "Dad, we landed early. Can we come now? I can't wait until morning." "Of course, sweetheart. We're both here." "Both? Your mother and I, we have a lot to explain." Silence. "Then, is she really sick?" "Not the way we thought, but yes, she's been very sick. Someone hurt her, hurt all of us." "Mackenzie?" Kyle closed his eyes. His daughter was too smart, had probably pieced things together from overheard conversations. "Yes." "I never liked her," Sarah said quietly. "She always looked at you weird, and she'd say things about Mom when she wasn't around. Little things, mean things." "Why didn't you tell us?" "Because Mom loved her. And after the divorce, I thought maybe Mackenzie was right. Maybe Mom was selfish and cruel and—" Her voice broke. "I'm sorry, Daddy. I'm so sorry." "We'll be there in 20 minutes, Kyle promised. "And Sarah? Your mother loves you. More than you can possibly know." He woke Lillian gently. "The kids are here." She sat up, fear and hope warring on her face. "How do I face them, after everything?" "With truth," Kyle said. "And love. The same way we're facing each other." As they dressed for the reunion, Kyle thought about the long road ahead. Trust, once shattered, took time to rebuild. But they had time now, time Mackenzie had tried to steal, time they'd almost thrown away. The hotel lobby was quiet when they arrived. Sarah stood by the entrance, Jacob beside her. They looked older than their years, marked by the trauma of their parents' war. Then Sarah saw Lillian and ran. The collision nearly knocked Lillian down. Sarah sobbed into her mother's shoulder, words tumbling out, apologies, accusations, love, and anger mixed into an incomprehensible storm. Jacob approached more slowly, searching Kyle's face. "Is it over? Really over?" "The lies are," Kyle said. "The rest, we'll figure out together." Jacob nodded and joined the embrace. 4 people, damaged but not broken, holding each other in a hotel lobby while night fell over Rochester. It wasn't forgiveness, not yet. It wasn't healing too soon. But it was a beginning, and after months of endings, that was enough. Morning light filtered through the hospital room where Lillian sat, IV drip steady in her arm. 3 weeks of chelation therapy had flushed most of the toxins from her system, but the damage ran deeper than poison. "Your liver shows signs of stress," Dr. Patel explained. "And there's some kidney damage. With proper treatment, you should recover fully, but it will take time." "How much time?" Kyle asked. 6 months to a year. Maybe longer." Sarah squeezed her mother's hand. She'd barely left Lillian's side since their reunion, as if afraid she might vanish again. "What about the psychological effects?" Jacob asked. He'd taken a leave from Stanford, throwing himself into research about poisoning victims. "That's harder to predict. Chronic poisoning can cause anxiety, depression, cognitive issues. I'm recommending a psychiatric evaluation." After the doctor left, the family sat in silence. The easy camaraderie of their past felt like a foreign language they'd forgotten how to speak. "I'm scared," Lillian admitted. "What if the damage is permanent? What if I'm never me again?" "Then we learn to love who you become," Kyle said simply. Madison arrived with legal documents. "Mackenzie's taking the plea deal. 15 years, possibility of parole in 10. 10 years, Sarah spat. "For what she did." "It's better than trial," Madison explained. "This way, Mom doesn't have to testify, doesn't have to relive it all." "I want to testify," Lillian said quietly. I want to look her in the eye and tell her exactly what she stole from us. Lil. No, Kyle. I spent months thinking I was dying. Our children thought I'd abandoned them. You thought I'd betrayed 20 years of marriage. She doesn't get to plea bargain that away. The courtroom was packed for the sentencing hearing. Mackenzie sat at the defense table, orange jumpsuit hanging loose on her frame. She'd lost weight, her pretty features sharp with strain. When Lillian took the stand, Mackenzie leaned forward eagerly, as if hoping for forgiveness. You were my maid of honor, Lillian began, voice steady. You held my children when they were born. I trusted you with every secret, every fear. I loved you, Mackenzie whispered, loud enough to carry. No, you loved the idea of my life. You wanted what I had so badly you were willing to kill me for it. Lillian's voice strengthened. You made my children orphans in their own home. You made my husband believe I was a stranger. You made me believe I was dying. I just wanted him to be happy. Happy? Lillian stood, gripping the rail. He tried to kill himself 3 weeks after the divorce. Did you know that? My daughter stopped eating. My son threw himself into school to avoid thinking about his destroyed family. Where was their happiness? Kyle hadn't known Lillian knew about his darkest moment. He watched her blaze with righteous fury, the woman he'd fallen in love with emerging from months of shadow. You talk about love like it justifies everything, Lillian continued. But love doesn't destroy. It doesn't poison. It doesn't steal years from families. What you had was obsession, sickness, and I pity you for mistaking it for love. Mackenzie broke then, sobbing. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I just loved him so much. Then you should have wanted him happy, Lillian said softly. And he was happy. With me. Until you decided your feelings mattered more than 3 other lives. The judge sentenced Mackenzie to 18 years, no possibility of parole for 12. As they led her away, she looked back once. Kyle met her eyes, letting her see not anger but indifference. She was already fading from their story, a footnote in their survival. Outside the courthouse, Lucas waited. I wasn't sure I should come, he said carefully. Kyle extended his hand. I owe you more apologies than I can ever make. We all did things we regret. Lucas shook hands, then turned to Lillian. The gallery's still yours if you want it. I kept your office exactly as you left it. I don't know if I'm ready. Whenever you are. Art waits. He smiled sadly. And for what it's worth, I'm glad you two found your way back. Not many couples could survive what you did. That evening, they had dinner as a family for the first time in months. The conversation was careful, everyone navigating around emotional landmines. I've been thinking, Jacob said, about taking a gap year. Traveling, maybe. Figuring some things out. Because of us? Lillian asked. Partly. But also because I realized how quickly everything can fall apart. I don't want to waste time on things that don't matter. Stanford matters, Kyle said gently. Does it? Or is it just what's expected? Jacob pushed his food around. I watched you two almost lose everything because of lies and expectations. Maybe I need to figure out what I actually want. Sarah cleared her throat. If we're making announcements, I'm seeing a therapist. Have been for a month. Sweetheart, that's wonderful. Lillian reached for her hand. I have a lot to work through. Anger, mostly. At you, at Dad, at Mackenzie, at myself for believing the worst. She squeezed back. But I'm trying. We all are, Kyle said, which brings up something your mother and I discussed. Lillian nodded. We're going to renew our vows. Not now, we have too much healing to do first, but someday when we're ready, we want to start fresh. New promises based on who we are now, not who we were 20 years ago. Can we help plan it? Sarah asked, hope creeping into her voice. We're counting on it. Later, Kyle found Lillian on the hotel balcony, watching the city lights. Regrets? He asked. Thousands, but not about fighting for us. She leaned into him. Do you think we'll ever truly trust again, the way we used to? No, Kyle said honestly. But maybe that's not bad. We trusted blindly before. Now we'll trust with our eyes open. That sounds exhausting. Everything worth doing is... They stood together, damaged but not defeated. Tomorrow would bring more therapy, more difficult conversations, more work to reclaim what Mackenzie had tried to steal. But tonight, they had each other and the stubborn refusal to let evil win. "I love you," Lillian said. "I forgot to say it during all the drama, but I never stopped." "I know," Kyle replied. "Even when I thought you were betraying me, I knew. That's what made it hurt so much." "And now?" "Now it's what makes healing possible." The night wind carried the scent of rain, washing the city clean. And on that balcony, two people who'd survived the worst began the slow journey back to their best. The therapist's office smelled like vanilla candles and new beginnings. Dr. Amanda Chen sat across from Kyle and Lillian, notepad balanced on her knee. "Let's talk about trust," she said gently. "Kyle, you mentioned feeling like a fool for not seeing through Mackenzie's deception." 15 years, Kyle said, hands clenched. "She sat at our table, held our children, and I never suspected." "That doesn't make you a fool. It makes you human. We expect betrayal from enemies, not from family." "She wasn't family," Lillian interjected sharply, "but you thought of her as such. The betrayal trauma is similar to losing a loved one to violence, sudden, senseless, devastating." They'd been coming twice a week for 2 months, individual sessions, couple sessions, family sessions, slowly excavating the damage, examining each wound. "I dream about her sometimes," Lillian admitted. "Not nightmares exactly, just conversations, like we used to have. Then I wake up and remember she tried to kill me." "Grief is complicated when the person is still alive but dead to you," Dr. Chen noted. "You're mourning the friend you thought you had. I don't want to mourn her. I want to hate her. You can do both. Feelings aren't mutually exclusive." Kyle watched his wife struggle with the concept. Even now, even after everything, Lillian wanted clean lines. Good and bad, love and hate, trust and suspicion. But life had taught them the world lived in shades of gray. After therapy, they drove to their house, the one they'd almost lost. Sarah had moved back in, transforming Mackenzie's former guest room into an art studio. "It's therapeutic," she explained, showing them her latest painting. Dark swirls gave way to lighter shades, chaos resolving into calm. Plus, I figured we needed to reclaim the space. "It's beautiful," Lillian said, studying the technique. "You've improved. I had a good teacher." The words hung between them, acknowledgement of years when Lillian had guided Sarah's artistic development before everything fell apart. Jacob called from Stanford. He'd returned after his gap year travels, focused and determined. "Switching majors," he announced over video chat. "Psychology. I want to understand how people like Mackenzie happen." "That's a big change from engineering," Kyle said. "Maybe. But I spent a year watching people in different countries, different cultures. The patterns are the same: love, fear, obsession, trust. I want to understand why some people twist those into weapons." "Speaking of weapons," Sarah chimed in, "Lucas called. He wants to know if Mom's ready to come back to the gallery." Lillian tensed. She'd been avoiding the decision for weeks. "I don't know if I can. Too many memories, too many lies happened there." "Or," Kyle suggested carefully, "you could make new memories. Real ones this time." That weekend, they visited the gallery together. Lucas had indeed kept everything as she'd left it, down to the half-finished schedule on her desk. "I've been holding exhibitions," he explained. "But it's not the same. You have an eye, I don't." Lillian moved through the space like a ghost revisiting life. "Mackenzie used to meet me here for lunch. We'd plan exhibitions, gossip about artists. How did I not see what she was?" "Because she was very good at pretending," Lucas said. "I've been in therapy too, you know. Guilt's a hell of a thing. I should have seen something was wrong, should have questioned why you were pushing so hard for an affair that never happened." "We all should have seen," Kyle added, "but we didn't. And here we are." Lillian touched a painting vibrant sunset over water. "Here we are," she repeated. "Lucas, I need to start small. Maybe 1 day a week?" "Whatever you need. The art community's been asking about you. When you're ready, they're ready." That evening, they had dinner at their old favorite restaurant. The owner, who'd heard about their ordeal through the news, comped their meal. For survival, he said, raising a glass. For second chances, Lillian countered. As they ate, Kyle watched his wife laugh at something Sarah said, saw Jacob tease his sister, felt the fragile new foundation they were building. Not the same as before that was gone forever, but perhaps something stronger, forged in truth rather than assumption. I've been thinking about forgiveness, Lillian said suddenly. Dr. Chen says I need to forgive Mackenzie to fully heal. Do you? Sarah asked. I don't know. Part of me wants her to suffer forever. Part of me pities her. Living with that kind of obsession must have been its own prison. She chose it, Jacob said firmly. Every day for 15 years she chose to hurt our family. Yes, but holding on to anger hurts us, not her. Lillian sighed. I'm not ready to forgive. Maybe I never will be. But I'm ready to stop letting her control my thoughts. Kyle raised his water glass. To evicting unwanted tenants from our heads. And hearts, Lillian added. They clinked glasses, a simple gesture that felt momentous. 6 months ago, they'd been scattered, broken, lost. Now they sat together, scarred, but healing. Mom, Sarah said quietly, I'm proud of you, of both of you. Most people would have given up. We're garrisons, Kyle said. We're too stubborn to give up. Too stupid, you mean? Lillian corrected with a smile. That too. Walking home, Lillian slipped her hand into Kyle's. Do you really think we can do this? Build something new from all this wreckage? I think we already are, he replied. Every day we choose to try is a brick in the foundation. Very poetic for an engineer. You're rubbing off on me. They paused at their front door. The house that had seen so much pain, so many lies, so much love despite it all. Ready? Kyle asked. No, Lillian said honestly. But I'm doing it anyway. They entered together, switching on lights, filling empty spaces with presence. Sarah's music drifted from upstairs. Jacob's laughter echoed from a phone call with friends. Life, messy and complicated and real, surrounded them. The ghost of Mackenzie lingered in corners, in memories, in the supplements Lillian still couldn't look at in stores. But ghosts had no power over the living unless the living gave it to them, and the garrisons were done giving their power away. The morning sun painted the Pacific in shades of gold and turquoise. Kyle stood on the deck of their new home, smaller than their old one, but clean of memories, watching Lillian arrange paintings in her studio space. A little to the left, she called out to Sarah, who was helping hang a large canvas. You said that 5 minutes ago. Then you said right. Make up your mind. Artist's prerogative, Lillian laughed. 2 years had passed since Mackenzie's sentencing. 2 years of therapy, rebuilding, and careful steps forward. Kyle had sold his construction company, tired of the corporate demands. Now he crafted custom furniture in a workshop behind the house, each piece a meditation in wood and patience. Dad, where's the level? Jacob emerged from the workshop, sawdust in his hair. He'd taken a semester off to help with the move, claiming he needed a break from textbooks. Check the blue toolbox and wear the safety glasses. I'm 21, not 12, Jacob protested, but grabbed the glasses anyway. The doorbell rang. Madison arrived with champagne and contracts. Gallery papers, she announced. Lillian Garrison Art Space is officially yours. Lillian accepted the documents with trembling hands. After months of working part-time at Lucas's gallery, she'd decided to open her own. Small, intimate, focused on emerging artists who painted from pain and survival. I can't believe it's real, she murmured. Believe it, Lucas said, appearing with a massive bouquet. And these are from the artist community. We're thrilled you're back. The afternoon became an impromptu celebration. Friends arrived with food and wine. Liam brought his new girlfriend, a therapist he'd met at a conference on trauma recovery. Ironic, right? He said. Detective falls for a shrink. Not ironic, Lillian corrected. Perfect. We all need someone who understands our shadows. As evening approached, Kyle found himself on the beach with Lucas. The man he'd once tried to destroy had become an unexpected friend. I never thanked you properly, Kyle said, for dropping the charges, for helping Lil recover. We all do crazy things for love, Lucas replied. The trick is learning from them. What did you learn? Lucas smiled sadly. That grief makes us vulnerable to false connections. I was so lonely after my wife died, I almost let myself believe Lillian's act. Part of me wanted to. But you didn't. No, because real love doesn't require destruction. It builds. They watched the sun sink toward the horizon. Kyle thought about all the sunsets he'd almost missed, all the moments Mackenzie had tried to steal. She gets out in 10 years, he said quietly. Will you be ready? We'll be living. That's the best revenge, to be so happy, so complete, that she becomes irrelevant. Back at the house, Lillian stood before their assembled friends, raising a glass. 2 years ago, I thought my life was over. I'd lost my husband's trust, my children's respect, my best friend to a madness I couldn't understand. She paused, finding Kyle's eyes. But sometimes destruction clears ground for something better. To Phoenix rises, Madison called out. To second chances, Sarah added. To family, Jacob said, wrapping an arm around his mother. To truth, Kyle finished, joining them. However painful, however difficult, it's better than the prettiest lie. They drank, laughed, celebrated until stars filled the sky. Slowly friends departed, leaving the family alone in their new beginning. I have something for you, Lillian told Kyle, leading him to her studio. She unveiled a painting, a couple standing before a cracked wall, light streaming through the fissures. Their faces were turned toward each other, hands linked, shadows falling behind them. It's us, she said simply. Broken but not defeated. It's perfect. He studied the way she'd captured both damage and hope. Like us. I want to hang it in the gallery, the first piece in my Survivor collection. Won't people ask about it? Let them. I'm done hiding our story. Maybe someone else needs to know that betrayal doesn't have to be the end. They stood together, surrounded by art born from pain transformed into beauty. Through the window, the ocean continued its eternal rhythm, unchanged by human drama. Kyle's phone buzzed, a notification from the prison system. Mackenzie had requested to add them to her visitor list. He showed Lillian, who read it and deleted it without comment. Not today, she said. Maybe not ever, but definitely not today. What about forgiveness? I forgive her for being sick. I forgive myself for not seeing it. But I don't forgive the choices she made. Some things aren't forgivable, Kyle. They're just survivable. He pulled her close, feeling the steady beat of her heart. The woman in his arms had traveled through hell, faced death by poison and betrayal, and emerged scarred but whole. I love you, he said. More than on our wedding day. More than before the pain. I love who we've become. Harder people, she acknowledged. Less trusting, more careful. But real. No more pretty lies, no more blind faith. Just eyes wide open and choosing each other anyway. Sarah appeared in the doorway. Mom? Dad? Jacob's setting up the fire pit. Family tradition in the new place? They followed her outside, where Jacob had already started the flames. The four of them settled into chairs, watching sparks rise toward stars. Tell us the story, Sarah requested. The real one, all of it. So they did. Taking turns, filling in pieces, they told the story of a marriage that almost died, a family scattered by lies, a trust rebuilt from ashes. They spoke of Mackenzie not as a monster, but as a woman whose love became possession, whose pain became poison. The strangest part, Lillian concluded, is that I sometimes miss her. The her I thought I knew. My friend, my sister. That person never existed, but I mourn her anyway. That's not strange, Jacob said. That's human. They sat in comfortable silence, 4 survivors around a fire. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, the gallery opening, Jacob's return to school, Sarah's art show. But tonight, they had each other and the truth that bound them. Look, Sarah pointed. Shooting star. Make a wish, Lillian said automatically. But Kyle found he had nothing to wish for. Everything he'd almost lost sat within arm's reach. The life they'd rebuilt wasn't perfect, too much scar tissue for that. But it was theirs, earned through pain and chosen despite fear. The fire crackled, sending more sparks skyward. And in that moment, Kyle understood what Lillian had painted, that sometimes the cracks were where the light entered. That broken things, mended with care and truth, could be more beautiful than those that had never known damage. No wish, he said. Just gratitude. Lillian reached for his hand. Their wedding rings caught the firelight, not the original bands, but new ones, inscribed with a date 2 years after disaster and one word, survived. In the distance, waves continued their ancient conversation with the shore. The stars wheeled overhead, indifferent to human drama. But in a small circle of firelight, a family that had nearly ended chose to begin again, and that was enough, more than enough. It was everything. This story haunts me because it shows how our desperate need to protect those we love can become the very weapon that destroys them. Lillian's misguided sacrifice nearly cost her everything, while Kyle's blind trust in appearances almost killed the only person who truly loved him. The most chilling lesson is that sometimes the greatest threats come from those closest to us, hiding behind masks of friendship and care for decades, reminding us that trust should be earned continuously, not given blindly. Makes you wonder, how many of us are unknowingly harboring a Mackenzie in our lives, mistaking obsession for loyalty?